morning, ladies and gentlemen. You, me, and everyone make choices almost every single day. To go somewhere or not, to have coffee or tea, to take a break or to carry on. When we are so used to making choices for ourselves, will it be a problem if our freedom of choice is to be taken away? Recently, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified processed meat as a carcinogen with sufficient evidence that its consumption causes colorectal cancer. Soon after, there have been debates on whether government should enforce mandatory warning labels on all processed meat items, like those on cigarettes. But do warning labels actually work? Despite the introduction of warning labels in 1966, the consumption of cigarettes in the US still rose. In 1981, a report issued by the US Federal Trade Commission concluded that warning labels on cigarettes are not very effective, due to consumers ignoring the label. That was why heavy tax on cigarettes and banning of smoking in public areas were introduced subsequently to control the number of smokers. So by the looks of things, pasting warning labels on processed meat does not seem like the solution. Then should we have additional tax on a food item if the government says it's harmful toward public health? My answer is no. Food is a necessity in life and not to be treated like other commodities on which taxation is justifiable. Honestly speaking, eating small quantities of unhealthy or potentially dangerous foods occasionally would not be that detrimental to health. The main issues are the quantity and the frequency, for which we have to make more complicated choices. I strongly believe that we must not take a passive approach and have the government attempt to control us from our food choices. We must all make active measures to teach everyone to be able to make their own choices. Providing consumers with additional information via public education media campaigns can absolutely increase their overall awareness, allowing them to make more informed decisions when choosing food. In addition, educating the younger generation about the true faces of risks can amplify the effects of education campaigns, ensuring that they last from generation to generation. After all, the freedom of choice should hold a vital position regarding our daily food consumption, for I am sure no one wants their lives to be dictated. To conclude, I quote the words of William Shakespeare. "The choices we make dictate the lives we lead." When we all know what's good or bad to eat, we would not need the government to make our choices. Remember, we are all responsible to make our own choices, and the right choices for ourselves. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for that. You've covered a lot of the issues, so I'm going to ask you something completely off topic. How about that? Related, but a little bit unusual. There are a lot of cooking shows on television.
Yes.
You see them on the internet, that kind of thing. And you often hear that young people are developing an interest in cooking at home, that sort of thing. Do you think that's true? And what about you? Do you do that sort of thing?
Thank you for your question, sir. As for myself, I'm not really that much into cooking. I mean, my best dish is a fried egg, and so that's not much really. But I believe, yeah, some youngsters do really actually participate a lot in cooking, and because it's actually just personal interest. Lots of people have different interests, and I think that if they really, lots of people actually, young people especially, really want to participate in cooking. I have a classmate who has watched basically every episode of MasterChef, and he's actually trying what they actually do every time. And yes, he's very into cooking, and I believe this is true, that youngsters can actually throw themselves into cooking and participate in it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. So it's my job to completely change the subject on you, and I would like to ask you about social media. So specifically, do you think that social media communication has had a positive or negative impact on how we develop and maintain relationships in real life?
Thank you for your question. Well, I believe everything has two sides, a good and a bad side. And I believe, as some people may think, that social media allows us to connect better, but not with people nearby us, but with people that are digitally nearby us, which means our friends on Facebook or someone with our emails. And I believe, yes, this allows us our networks to spread out to all across the world. But then a negative influence is when we all stare down onto our phones, we might neglect the other people like sitting right beside us. And I believe we need to balance out this communication. We can't just communicate with people via our phones or our digital devices. We should also balance our communication and communicate with people around us and notice things around us so we don't fall into this digital trap. Thank you.